Recording is in progress. Good evening, y'all. It's Code Platoon, evenings, weekends, Foxtrot Platoon, Module 6, React, Week 16, Day 2. This is the second day of React. Many more to come, but all the Tuesday classes are going to be the best, I guarantee you. Probably not. I think Julius is way better at React than I am, but we can get through it. It has not changed significantly since I learned it, and I like building stuff in React still, so I'll show y'all how a backend developer looks at a JavaScript library. So, state and conditional rendering. Have y'all heard the term state or conditionals? What is state? Matt, you shook your head up and down.
I'm not sure I can describe it, but I definitely heard it before.
Okay. Well, let's think of it like, things change, right? You have a changing state of where something is at. State, when we're speaking about React, which is all right here, but we're going to, use Jordan's layman's words. It is a variable that will make changes. A standard JavaScript variable is mutable, right? Unless it's a constant, then it just stays the same. You can't really do anything, to constants, but variables change and whatever. If you had a variable display to a page in HTML, and you template it out, right? It would show up, right? If I, let me just, this is probably not necessary, but if we were going to do something like, I don't know, H1, and then we wanted to write some, let's use Jinja. I think you guys have maybe seen Jinja, maybe not. I would do something like my age is, age, right? And when that shows up in HTML, it would just say my age is whatever that variable happened to be, whatever Python fired it off, right? It would be like, how old am I? 21. So if we change that variable in Python, if we update something on the server side, right, and say, oh, made a mistake, 19, Jordan's 19, it's still going to say that on HTML. Nothing is re-rendering that HTML, right? The only way we would be able to re-trigger that to get it to update is if we refresh the page. And there are ways to trigger that. You can have a user, once they submit a form, just refresh the page. You can trigger a page refresh, but that refreshes the entire page. And that's not really what we want, right? If there's other stuff on the page that we didn't necessarily want to change, or wasn't submitted, or wasn't ready, you don't want all that to change. It's still just kind of saved in the DOM, right? Instead, we want just different components, different pieces of the page to change. The way React manages that is through state. And state is going to be like a variable, but instead of just setting a variable, you set a variable name as well as a callback function to adjust that variable. If I were to set age, I would create a constant, or sorry, not a constant, wake up. I would set state called age, and it would also come with a set age callback function. That way, when I want to change age, I use that function set age that triggers a re-render of that component if age were to change. We won't ever adjust state directly. Never ever change state directly. You'll jack your stuff all up. You use the callback function. We'll kind of explain it a little bit better down here. But with your understanding of components and props, I don't think you'll have an understanding of props. We're working on this. So what props are basically is, props is passing variables to other components. We'll get into that later. That's not supposed to be here this early. And I noticed that, didn't change it. to make our apps more dynamic, we need state. State allows us to update internal data and trigger updates on the user interface based on these internal updates. React generates a virtual DOM. We're only updating certain components on that DOM. Using state, React provides us with some functions or hooks that allow us to add extra functionality to components. Objective, subjective statement here, I guess. In terms of state, use state is the most useful as it allows us to manage and update state within a component. There are a lot of hooks that are extremely useful. The use state hook provides us with a convenient way to declare and update variables within functional components. So you got to import it into your React library. Use state. This is deconstruct React, pull it out. But this is how it looks to set a state variable, how to set state in React. I'm using the word variable, but I want to start disconnecting the word variable from state. This is state count. This is how you refer to count. This is what the variable name could be, but this is what state is. And there's that callback function called set count. This could be anything you want. Doesn't have to be count. Doesn't have to be the same word. But man, that would sure be confusing if these were two different things. We have count and set count. That is how state works. If we had age, we'd have set age. If you have color, you have set color. Don't go do something weird like count and set a trigger number or something like that. It's going to jack things up. That's a horrible idea. We are doing this with use state, and this right here is setting the original value, right? So if we're doing a number count, this is going to be its default value. This can often be set to none or an empty string or anything you want. But when the page is rendered, when the page is, refreshed, this is what it's going to be. This is always the like blank slate piece of the what the HTML is going to render as. I don't want to get too into this without starting up some React. So let's do this. Somebody hot micing or trying to get on me? I heard somebody talk. All right, so there are a lot of ways to create a React application from scratch. There's npm, npx, npi. You could reference the library directly. Using Vite is a great way to do all kinds of JavaScript frameworks and libraries. It's a good starting point. This is how you will do it going forward. It asks you for a few prompts. I imagine there's plenty of flags we can pass this, so we can skip all these prompts, but this is a fine speed for now. Let's call this lecture. We want to build it in Vue, React, Lit, Svelte, Solid, Quick, others. I only recognize like 3 of these, so don't worry if you don't. TypeScript, and I don't know what SWC is. What does that stand for? Should look that up. We're just going to use JavaScript for right now. We might teach you a little bit of TypeScript at some point. At this point, we don't want to muddy it up too much. Dunzo. Look at that. Well, don't look at that. Look at this lecture. Here is the bones of a React application. How do we start it up? I don't have to remember jack. It tells me. Thanks, Vite. So I cd into the lecture. npm install, npm run dev. Speedy web compiler. Look into that. I wonder what the heck that is. All right, cool. That started something. Let's go see it. Aw, ain't that handy? You'll notice in our curriculum, it's asking us to work on count. Look at that. It's already built in here. Yeah, interesting. Click on the Vite and React logos, learn more. Cool, great. Oh, it glows? I don't remember this glowing. Interesting. So, much like Django, you start up a fresh application. It gives you a welcome landing page, starting page, get started, quick start, probably. I imagine these are going to take us some quick start or just the docs. Let's look at what's actually going on here. not too crazy. In source, you get a bunch of junk, just like Django. You get a big pile of helpful stuff. And we need to only navigate what we know about at this point. Right now, app.jsx. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about anything else over here. Just look at app.jsx. This is the starting point, landing page, home page, main brain. This is what we run when we run the React app. Got a bunch of imports at the top. Main function name is app. Here is that state we were talking about, already established. All of the space in between 7 and 8 here, that's all the JavaScript logic we could ever want and write. We could fill this all up with all kinds of good stuff. If your app.jsx has a huge space here full of lots of logic, I'm going to come for you and I'm going to hurt you. We're going to separate that out into other pages. Don't do it all here. This needs to be a nice, tight, this is basically just going to be where we route things. This is the most I ever want to see on this app.jsx. I'm still salty. When I was in Platoon, my final project got turned in with a 300-page app.jsx. And we couldn't fix it in time, so I got to turn that in and feel happy about it. But never again. We'll be only routing from here. But here's all our startup stuff. What is this? You ever seen one of these before? What kind of tag is that?
Fragment.
That function like a wrapper.
What? Wrapper? Is that what you both said?
No, I said fragment.
Fragment.
What the hell it was called from yesterday.
Yeah, when I learned about it, they called it the new hotness. This is like the only place I've ever seen it since then. I don't know well enough to explain the differences between a div and this blank HTML tag here. I'll tell you what, they act very similarly.
The blank HTML tag is the react.fragment.
Oh, all right. I mean, it's not going to break anything if I do this, right?
No,
It will.
it functions. This it does. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, it has to be a fragment.
When the heck did that change?
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I actually had VS Code.
Ooh!
Hmm.
Put your money where your mouth is. I don't know. Let's look into that after this because I'm curious. As far as I've been told is, hey, you don't want to write out a full div. You don't want to have something special. You're not going to do anything with it. You just want a box. Here's an empty box. It works just fine. From here, we got anchor tags. Wonder what those anchor tags and images are. Oh, probably this. The CSS attached to them, probably coming from app.css. I'd bet. Yep, sure looks like it is. Logo.react.hover. Logo. Yep. H1, Byte and React, div, class name, card, all this stuff. Here's our button. Here's how it works. Let's dig in. Let's go back to the lecture real quick because I don't want to go too far. But this is going to explain how state works. So import the useState hook. Import React useState from React. I don't know if it's entirely necessary to pull in React right there. It seems to be working just fine. So I don't know if you need to specify it. Not a genius at JavaScript imports, so if y'all know if there's any reason to or not, let me know. I've always found that it works fine to not specify import React. Declare the useState hook. Takes an initial value as an argument, returns with an array, like we said. So, ooh, lost my spot. This here, outside of the return, our JavaScript logic. If you want vanilla JavaScript, and not vanilla, if you want ES6 or later JavaScript, it needs to be here within the function. Just like any JavaScript ever you've written, if you put it in the return, it's going to get wonky. This is not JavaScript in here. This is JSX. This looks like HTML. You might think it's HTML. You might treat it like HTML. And sometimes it'll work just like HTML, but I'm here to tell you it's not HTML. And when you go looking up issues with stuff here in the return, and you're on a page that's talking about HTML, it's not going to be quite right. It's not always the same. This is JSX. This is a templating language. This is a fake DOM. This is a virtual DOM we're building out here. This is building out templated HTML. This will become HTML. It's not HTML yet. It's JSX. That's why you can do stuff like this templated junk here, as well as here. All right. So setting state right here, as we were talking about, using the useState hook. We got count, set count. This button has an on-click method. This is being triggered when it's clicked. This is some baked in React stuff, right? But it sure looks like some baked in HTML stuff. When clicked, it is going to trigger set count, and it's going to feed it count, right? It's going to take the value of count and then add a 1 to that count. Here, inside the button, notice if this is freaking you out, we can always do something like this to shore it up, make it a little bit easier to understand. That's just the text within the button, right? It was templated down to make it look fancier, but we've just got a button, you know, tag, button tag, closing, and then this is the text inside. That's where count is count. That's why it's showing up in the middle of the button, right? Sound good? The rest of this is getting in the way. We don't need most of it. Oh, what about here? Oh, that's fine. More of this stuff. Oh, I killed his friend. Happy? All right, cool. Okay, so access and update state. We can now access our state variable, which is what we did. You can display it anywhere in your component. To update the state, you can use the update function you created, set count. This function accepts a new value as its argument. It passes the state, or sorry, and updates the state variable. So set count, you give it count plus 1. That is setting state. Whatever is in here, whatever is resolved here is what is setting the new count. React handles the re-rendering. When you update the state variable using the update function, React will automatically render the component and update the parts of the user interface that are using the state. That's what it was doing there. Makes sense. Anyone like it, dislike it? Questions about it? Conditional rendering. Now that we have explored the power use state hook in managing state with functional. Oh my gosh, what happened? Get out of here. Let's move our focus to another crucial aspect of React development: conditional rendering. Use state hook allows us to store and update dynamic data within our components. However, what if we all want to selectively display or hide components based on certain conditions? That sounds pretty useful. Conditional rendering, very easy to kind of understand, I guess, if you think about rendering and conditionals. We've worked in JavaScript. We've worked in Python. We understand conditions, conditionals. I'm not going to build out something so that this works just right. But if we were to kind of copy paste logic like this up here, we would then return different components, right? This is still technically correct JavaScript here, right? That'd probably get rid of all that. I need to build out these components somewhere, but this is just JavaScript, and it still is just going to work this way. Whatever returns on this page is what is getting returned to the DOM. And if I wanted to conditionally decide what gets returned, I could use conditional logic, just like this. So if we were doing like, this is a way to, and kind of something I want to pull from today is there's a lot of different ways to do a lot of these things, and it kind of comes down to what makes the most sense, what's the most dry, and what is the most organized. If I had all my crazy logic and display stuff kind of wrapped up in these components here, this would be a great way to do this. Otherwise, we can conditionally render within the return statement using templating and regular old JavaScript. So ternary operator. Y'all remember these? Do we like these? We whatever about them? You ever thought they'd be useful or
Love
no? I love them too. They're really great for displaying information. They're pretty tight, clean. They look good. You don't, I mean, this saves you like however many lines of code, right? This is the same as if else, right? Single line, ready to go. Let's kind of display how we would do this. Actually, I want to work through both of these, and then we're going to come back and add it to the React. So real quick, within, if this was the way, I don't want to copy paste exactly because we're kind of, I want to show it to you. If this was up here, oh, that's real ugly. So if this state was true, we would pull up this banner here. If it's false, we'd use this sign in prompt. That's all. That's it. This logic here is wrapped, it's templated in this, within this, I don't know what to call the brackets. I call it template, but I guess it's like JSX wrapper, maybe is the word. Anything within these brackets will be templated out of JSX. Whatever is resolved here is what will be displayed. You additionally, oh, I think it's got a nice little example for me here, can just display. I copied more than I wanted. Whatever is resolved like this. So remember, truthy, falsy, if you just hand in, if you just supply a value, if that value is true, that's like checking to see if it's true, right? We don't have to say if true. These ampersands, remember, are going to continue if that is a true statement. So this would be another way to just give a welcome banner if signed in is true. This wouldn't display the sign in prompt. You'd have to find a different way to do that. But this should conditionally render that banner. All right, so the way I like to kind of tie all this together. So we got a button here. It works. It does what we want it to do. It displays its count. That's cool. I want to conditionally render something on the page from a separate component. It's nice that it shows up in the button, but what if we had like a, I don't know, congratulations, you hit the button 5 times kind of thing, right? You ever seen the button pressing game, clicking game, the cookie game, click the cookie? Is that, y'all remember that? Anyone? It's a game where you just click the cookie, and the more times you click it, the more things show up on the page. We're going to do something simple like that. So new component, I can put it wherever the heck I want it, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not insane. I'm going to put it here within source components. This is where my components are going to go. What is a component? Be a lot of things. Generally, something that will eventually resolve to an element that will display on the page, I guess. You can pack as much logic into a component as you want. You can pack component or logic on this side, render the component conditionally. It kind of comes up, you know, whatever you want to do. So within components, conventionally, we're going to do this away. Pascal case for these things because they are going to be functions. I'm just going to call this 5clicks.js. This is what's going to display when you get your 5 clicks. And I am not solid enough at my JavaScript without looking at my quick little level right here. Okay, so we are going to export default function. We're going to call this 5 clicks. Notice this is not just some random name, it's matching the page number, right? And then we're just going to return, I don't know, an H1, an H2 that says, you have clicked 5 times. Seems good, right? If I want to test this, see what it looks like, it would be real easy to just copy paste this over in our app.js. Put it wherever we want it to go, and it's going to look like that, right? But we want to conditionally render this. So let's not paste it in there. What am I keeping? Sorry, getting a lot of Slack messages, all from Platoon beeps. Okay, here we go. So to conditionally render, we can do ternary or the other method. Let's do ternary first. We could within here on click. No. Actually, yeah, that's fine. There. So that is going to, oop, and I didn't even pull it in right. From the components that we got there, I am going to import the component that I have built. And JavaScript does not look at the top level and go down. It goes relative to what page you're on. So if I wanted to go into components is at the same level as app.js. So right here, go down into components, grab 5 clicks. We're going to import that as 5 clicks, plural. So this is directly referencing that component, that function that I built out there. If I want to conditionally render it, I could do something like we talked about. Count equal to 5. 5 clicks. Otherwise, nothing. Let's just do a close off tag, something like that. And it's wrapped up. Did I make a mistake here? Is that invalid syntax? I don't think I messed up. Oh man. Why is it upset with me? Let's just see. Oh. Okay, so this is telling me the issue is actually in my component. So no reason to be checking this out. Let's go back here and see what we have done. I don't really see an issue with this. What did I do wrong, y'all? Anyone see?
Do you need a semicolon at the end after H2?
I don't think that's it. I don't think it's mad about that.
Or does it all need to be in parentheses?
See, I don't think so. Try. Let's try it. Let's run it. Let's restart it. Let's see. Oh. Oh! Is this it? It's because I called it .js and not JSX. Well, I think that fixed it. Let's see what's going on now. Not even getting anything. That's okay. As much as I don't want to fumble in front of you guys, I would really like to actually work through React issues. Okay. Upload resources are responded with 5 clicks. Yes, status for not found. What is our body here? We just got an empty body. There's nothing being displayed. So that makes me think that I'm not displaying what I think I'm displaying.
Does line 5 have to have import 5 clicks from components dot forward slash components dot forward slash 5 clicks dot JSX?
I don't think so. I don't think so, but you might be right. And did I call it? All right, so name 5 clicks dot JSX. That should line up. Clicks JSX. Shouldn't need to specify it. That not typically required. Is there spelling error? What's going on here? Let's comment it out real quick. Get back to sanity. Did I break anything? Still good. So the issue is the component I created. Now, I don't know why I'm running into problems. This is not an issue at all. Last time I was doing this. Maybe it needs its own div. Oh, I don't know if it likes that or not. Well, no. Let's wrap it in a div real quick. Don't think this is the problem. Oh. Is that the problem? This needs to be its own div. Dang it, Jordan. No, I don't think so. Because, that'll make no sense to me. I would think it would be fine because it is its own HTML component. But for whatever reason, it didn't like that it was outside of its own div. Interesting. I'm gonna try and get to the bottom of that. This is not playing like I practiced. But at least it's working the way we want. Let's dig back into that. So renders on 5 clicks looks good. The way that occurs is it's checking the count every time count is being reset. It is kind of re-rendering what's in here. This div will display 5 clicks when this value is true. It really should go away after I click it a 6th time. It sure does, because it's no longer equal to 5, right? We could do greater than, equal if we wanted that to stick around. Anyhow, if we wanted to do it the other way. Like this, without using a ternary, when this is true, it will then run this. I think. Let's see. Hey, look at that. So the 2 different conditional rendering ways talked about in the lecture, we have running here. I don't understand why that div is causing me issues, but we won't get hyperfixated on it. I'll get you an answer after this. So one other thing Components, you can use them to organize logic as well, right? It doesn't just need to be what is returned back. If you think all this logic here seems like a lot of excess being, added into this parent folder here, or sorry, this parent component, I guess is what you'd call it, that's fine. We can, using props, which is something you'll get into very soon, we could pack in this conditional logic into the component itself. The way you do that I'm having so much pains with this. Do I want to get into all that? I don't know if I want to show y'all props or not today. I guess we can. So we could take this logic and pour it into here. We would just need something, something to keep track of it. You can pass props to different components. Y'all are going to learn this tomorrow, I believe, but I'm going to go ahead and show you this now. We could take this counter variable here and perform that logic much the same way. So if counter, and I'm going to hand in an object. I'm building it out here, but I want to show you how to interact with it on the other side. If I did counter.count is equal to 5, you could return based off logic within this component there. That's what I wanted. So if this works the way it, the way I intend it to, you wouldn't need to do any kind of checking logic, any kind of conditional rendering. We could conditionally render from the component itself if you want to do it that way. And if you did get it working the way you'd like, you would only have to pass in the component like this. This is more of a kind of design choice, and it depends on what you're doing. But the way we would get that information in there, like that. Is that happy? Like that? I think that's right. You set a variable. This is how you'd pass on props. Say you'd pass on information. You pass this state on to a child component. You set a value. We'll call it the counter. And within it, you just have an object, like a Python dictionary. Key value pair very often can be the same thing, and that should be able to be read by the component. The counter is what's getting passed in. Counter.count, counter.count should be equal to this count here. That way we tear out any kind of conditional logic that we'd find in this main page and pass it on to the component. Why would you want to do that? I don't know. It's your application. But I want to kind of just display. Am I missing something? Sure am. You don't like that at all, does it? That's fine. I don't know why that's throwing error with me. That should be the way to do it. But again, I'm stretching. This is what I get for trying to get into stuff I didn't prepare ahead of time. But this is how you pass on props to components. It's upset with my syntax. I'll fix it and put it in the Slack. But I'm already going off the rails and what I was planning on talking about today. You will cover props with Julius tomorrow, I believe. Anyhow, ignore that. Conditional rendering with standard old truthy falsy JavaScript can be done with a ternary and state. State is one of the most important things from today that I want you to understand. You will not set count by rewriting this variable. If you were to rewrite this variable later on this page, if you said count is equal to 2, it wouldn't re-render the component at all. You wouldn't see that change displayed on the page because you're not using the hook, the useState hook to to update state. The page is just going to sit there. We have to reference count by using set count, and that is the way it's going to work for all your different components. I am so mad that my notes are forged. I had a good example. Gosh darn it. Burning my candle at both ends today, y'all. All right.